let's talk about leadership. My name is Anthony Gangi. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Looks pretty good, right? Subscribe if you haven't. Cheers. Like and comment. Make the page interactive. We're over 300. This is going to be a good chance for us to communicate, get our concerns out there. But again, the page is still growing, but it's doing well. Don't forget, guys, also have a free app. It's on iOS and Samsung devices, as well as my Facebook page. Help that grow as well. Okay, so I want to talk about leadership because it's important. Right now, if you look on my Facebook page as well as my profile page, all you see is animosity between admin and frontline. It's a national problem, okay? And it's making our facilities or our agencies weaker because it sets a divide, okay? And when there's any type of divide or any type of gap between frontline and management, inmates are going to take advantage of that gap. It's called the divide and conquer, if you will. So we always need to promote a united front. We cannot have any weak link in our chain because that will expose vulnerabilities, and eventually what will happen is the safety and security of the jail, the prison, safety and security of the employees, the inmates that reside within, civilian staff, volunteers, all be in jeopardy. So what we want to do is we want to promote an environment that encourages communication between all staff on all levels. And we want the inmates to see that. That's very, very important. If the inmates see that we're connected on all levels, on all fronts, it makes it harder for them to employ that divide. And as a good leader, you are instrumental in keeping the team united. And I like to use the word team because we all have a part to play for the overall success of the agency, of the department we're in. Okay, so one thing is we cannot work in an isolated manner, correct? Success and failures depend on each other, which means that I do not succeed in isolation of everyone else, but I also do not fail in isolation of everyone else. We succeed. We fail. It's never done in isolation. It's done together. Okay? Now, having said that, for those who believe that they are not connected to their frontline staff, for those who write up their officers with a smile on their face, let me remind you that those officers that you're writing up, as you're smiling, they're a reflection of you. They're a reflection of the department in which you supervise, the institution in which you work. So any hit, anything negative that occurs, you are not isolated from that. You should not be smiling as you handle out whatever discipline's got to be handled. I also want to encourage communication because we don't work, as I said, in isolation, which means that we all should be involved in the progressive move forward of where the department or agency is headed. Every one of us. Every one of us has value, especially frontline. You know, frontlines in the field for a long time. They're not hit or miss. I mean, they're in there for some cases 20, 25 years. People in the leadership position, especially ones that are higher up, they're not there that long. You know, they come and go. So you need to have some type of consistency with the people that are there for a lot longer. So you want to hear what they have to say. You want to see what type of changes they feel are needed. You know, and you want to see if you can work well and implement those changes for them if those changes do make sense and move with the overall evolution of where we want corrections to be. But again, you have to be open to communication. Communication is not just top down. It's not just top down. Communication also has to be bottom up. You know, the front line has to have a chance to speak their voice and state concerns. Because again, how else does management know what's going on? They know because we're attentive to what our front line says, what our front line needs. So again, we have to always make sure that we have that open communication. I also believe wholeheartedly that the employee morale, like I mentioned before, is important in keeping the facility together. You want people to want to come to work. You want to have an environment as best you can that promotes success, that promotes a want to do the job, and an appreciation and respect for the people that do the job. You know what's funny is, if you're a supervisor and the only time you deal with your employees is when something negative happens, even if by chance you're ever going to say something positive, that employee is going to dread seeing you. Because the only time that employee sees you is when you have something negative to say. It's like when I was a student and I was in school and I got called to the principal's office, my stomach always turned. Because I knew if I saw the principal, it was probably for something bad. Well, same thing here. When you're only looking at your employees or talking to your employees when they're doing something negative or bad, you have to be out there for the good, because you don't want them to dread seeing you. You want to have that communication with them, be constructive, but you also want to be there when good things are occurring. You don't want to praise when nobody's around. You want to praise and let other people hear that praise. And you sure as hell don't want to discipline when everybody's around. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that if you have to discipline, you discipline in private, so the employee can still hold their sense of respect for themselves, especially if the discipline, it's needed, but the actions may not have been intentional, for whatever the case may be. But again, look to praise your employees. Look to bring them up. Look to be constructive. I remember taking class with Michael Pitaro, and he teaches transformational leadership. It's an idea that you more see on the business end of things, but he was smart enough to bring that into corrections. And what it is, it's training people to be future leaders. To step up in corrections and take the next role. But in the process, you want those people to be from the front line, from whatever department it is, so they understand the business that they're in. So when they get to the top and something isn't quite black and white, they can understand the middle ground. They can understand the person's perspective and why that person chose that route. But the good thing about transformational leadership is it encourages and empowers their employees. Okay? And when something is done negative, obviously we have the outside of the severe negative. I'm not talking about dirty cops. I'm not talking about people that do foolish things. I'm talking about people that acted, and the action may have been in good intent, but the interpretation may be a little different from a management perspective. And obviously we listen to that interpretation, but we also have a reason why certain policies have to be followed. Remember, policies are built on the successes and failures of the institution. But most importantly is that this person, the transformational leader, the one that tries to go ahead and empower their employees, you want employees that are willing to act. If you constantly go after them for every choice that they make, and you don't empower them, you micromanage them, and you're quick to criticize their choices, you're going to have people that are afraid to do the job. You're going to have people that are afraid to step up. And we don't want that, not in corrections. In corrections, you need people to step up. You need people to make quick decisions. And then when those decisions are made, you as management, because eventually it may get up to you to kind of look into, see what's going on, you have to always put yourself in their shoes to see why the choice was made that way. And I'm not talking about Monday night quarterbacking. I'm not talking about you sitting in your office and, well, I could have done 20 million different. It's not that. It's about you listening to that officer, listening to that staff member, bringing them into your office, talking to them, asking them what happened, what were you thinking at that moment, and it's trying to understand them at the time they had to make that decision instead of doing it safely from your office. You want to empower. You want to understand. Leadership is about teamwork, because I can honestly tell you, I could never do this alone. I could never be in my position and expect to succeed on my own. It's impossible. There's just too many variables at play. And I'm dependent on a team in which everyone has input, and then I kind of facilitate that. Facilitate the communication among multiple departments to make sure we work together as one. And that's the key. Because again, that's the success and failure of it all. And again, when we succeed, people may see me first, but I'll be quick to go back and say, well, let me tell you how this was able to happen. And that's when I bring the other people in. But it happened because of the communication, because I valued what those below me had to say. And then together, we pushed for the same idea, and it worked. But again, if we fail, and we fail collectively. We fail collectively. And we together will move forward. We'll try to do things a little bit differently next time. But again, at each moment, I try to remind my team that no one's alone and that everyone has value. And for those that do make a mistake, and I mentioned it before, the constructive aspect, it's good to construct, because those that want to move up will look for those moments to learn, to be better. That's why sometimes when you call somebody to the office, besides the praise aspect, there may be some constructive communication that's needed. But once the person sees that they're being recognized and respected for a job well done, they'll be opened for the constructive end of how they can be better. Because you didn't start off by calling them pieces of shit at the beginning. You started off by saying, hey, great job in what you did, great job in how you acted, but next time let's try to do these things a little bit better. You're recognizing their hard effort. You're respecting who they are. And then that opens up the window for communication that's constructive. And it will be seen as constructive. But if we have that animosity towards each other, any chance for us to correct and build, we'll start off on a negative bias based on how that person views you. Because the only time that person ever talks to you is when you have something negative to say to them. And it's easy to say something negative to somebody if you don't feel connected to them. So again, as a good leader, you have to see your fate in line with those you supervise. You have to see that you're connected to them. Successes and failures are not done alone. They're done through partnerships with what you have established with your team members. Isolation has no part in corrections. It's the isolated staff member that will be open to manipulation. Promote good employee morale. Get rid of the boss attitude that all because you're in that position, you deserve that respect. It's not how it works. You have to give it first. And promote an environment where people want to come to work, where people are connected and they're united. And within that unity, it makes it harder for the inmates to break it. Teamwork. Good leaders lead by example. Promote growth. If your employee wants to succeed and move up, help them. Be constructive if you need to discipline. Never discipline with a smile on your face, because that discipline is a reflection of you. That person that committed that negative act is a reflection of you. The institution that's drowning is a reflection of you. You don't stand alone. You stand with everyone. Again, the show is Tier Talk. I thought I could talk about a little bit about leadership. I thought it worked well. Again, if you have anything to say, please comment below. Comment below. Like if you like it. If you don't like it, let me know too. It works, because this way I can try to make my show a little bit better. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk, and I'll see you soon.